All right, all right, all right. What's up, everybody? Got another segment here of the Wise Men podcast. This is a little segment that we and the boys kind of started to get going, and it's called Let's Talk It Out. Today, I'm going to be talking about the G20 agenda summit and the future of our financial system. A lot of interesting points that we're going to go over today. I'm super excited to cover a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff is not on the news or broadcasted across public forums, but most of the time, it is talked about by independent, people on social media and things like that. But before we get started, please go ahead, follow the show, give us a like, and share this show with your friends. My name is DeMaTT. I'm one of the guys on the podcast, and I wish I can get my guys on here to talk about this, but too much information I want to go over, and figure have no distractions and wanted to get through it all. So let's talk it out. So the G20 summit, what is it? A lot of people don't know it. They don't understand it. But it's a forum, pretty much, of a bunch of different countries get together, and they all are all heads of government, and they all talk about the future of finance. And a big part of this summit is that they have huge influence and huge control on the entire spectrum of our finances today. It was held in India this year, the year 2023, and their theme is called One Earth, One Family, One Future. If you can get any more New World Order than that, I don't think you can do any better than that. They kind of make it sound really friendly and really nice, and like, oh man, everyone needs to be a part of this. This is the way the system's going to go, and this is for the better of mankind. But I know it's all complete bullshit, and we will show you that today. We will show you the facts and point out a lot of different things. So a lot of this is involved, not specifically NATO. NATO's more military operations. G20 is more economical, government heads talking and discussing about where the financial future is going to go and where the private sector is also going to go. The World Economic Forum is also something that's kind of a part of this spectrum, but it's more of the private company section. And the major talking points that I found going over the G20 Summit 78-page document was that they talked a lot about climate change, healthcare, food security, and digitization. If anyone knows me, if anyone personally watching this that knows me, I fucking hate digital stuff. I know that we're involved in it in our everyday lives, but I just kind of have not an assumption, but I definitely know what's like coming in the future, and there's like no bullshit getting around me when it comes to digitizing money or digital payments or a digital blockchain system. It's all for the same thing. It's all for control. It's all for these major bank companies, the Bank of International Settlements, the International Monetary Fund, the central bank system. It's all to control your assets, your money. And if you control money, if you control the assets, you definitely are controlling the freedoms that people have. And freedom is everything. It's the most important God-given right that we deserve. And I can see that government nowadays is starting to want to take the position of God. They want to remove God out of the system, and they want to be God. So, like I said, a lot of the points of control on a daily basis involve the four things that I stated earlier, talking about climate change, healthcare, food security, digitization, as far as how you're going to go and spend your money in the monetary system, how, what are you eating on a daily basis? Are they controlling the food systems? Healthcare, vaccinations, we've seen that, especially in 2019, 2020. excuse me, where the world went, especially in the healthcare spectrum. And the biggest, newest, not new, it's been going on for a long time, you know, climate change. This thing has been going on since the 70s, and they've been changing their narrative, seems every decade leading until where we're at now. And they're really hitting it hard, especially paying attention and looking at the United Nations, you know, General Assembly 78, which was pretty much what kind of took place in a way with the G20 summit. But it was more of like a peace and security standpoint as far as where all the countries were coming from. And to start this off, we're going to talk about what the G20 is. And the G20 was founded in 1999 after the Asian financial crisis as a forum for the financial ministers and central bank governors to discuss global economic and financial issues. And this is what they do every year. They all get together and they all kind of, you know, we have all of our government heads. Biden was there today, Indian president, which I think they're actually getting ready to elect a new president. It's all rigged. Anyways, this is developed and controlled by higher entities. In a way, these labels and these figures that are a part of this G20 summit, they're just a facade, in my opinion. They're there to push a public view of where they're going to go with this future system that I don't know if it's around the corner. We might have 5 years, we might have 10 years, we might have 15 years. It really depends on what crisis comes next, in my opinion, and how fast things start to progress through crises, through ups and downs, and the constant phoenix metaphor of this where, you know, a new bird rises out of its ashes, per se. So real quick, let's go over the countries that are members of the G20 summit. So to my left here on my screen here, we have the countries that are involved in the G20 summit. We have Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Republic of Korea, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey, United Kingdom, the United States, and the European Union. Two countries that are involved in that lineup that did not show up this year, which it's not a surprise that they didn't show up, but it is Russia and China. And we obviously know that their financial system, they have a slightly different agenda than what the G20 agenda was discussing this year. I don't think there's a lot of difference between the two. I think there's more of like who's going to be leading this new world order in the financial aspect. And I think that in order for them to not be a part of these type of summits, that they're going to make a statement to where game on, per se, you know? And again, it's not surprised that those two countries did not show up. Now, if you don't know, those two countries are involved in the BRICS system. And the BRICS system is another financial group that is moving away from the dollar, which our dollar is just falling off the hill. It's falling off the mountain, and it's going down, down, down. It's called the de-dollarization of America, and it's really happening, especially with our country where it is today. It's America is there. This is a controlled, systematic takedown of America on a financial standpoint. Like, they are spending money out the yin yang. They don't even know how to run this budget properly. They're going to destroy this country and mess it up from the inside. economically. It's going to cause a huge collapse. We don't know when. Could be 3 years, could be 5 years, could be 10 years. We don't know, but it's definitely not looking good. So real quick, let's go over some statistics about the summit, what the summit talked about, and some more facts about the G20 summit. So the G20 accounts for about 80% of the world's GDP and 75% of global trade. If you guys don't know what this means, they basically owns 80% of the world's gross domestic product. That they own 80%. Well, not own, but they have influence over 80% of the entire world financially. And the G20 countries are home to about 60% of the world's population. So again, you have population, you have the financial system, that they have influence over 50% of it. Okay, these are huge numbers that we're talking. We're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars. The G20 countries also have a combined population over 4.9 billion people. Okay, there is about 7.3, 7.5 billion people in the entire world per se. So they definitely have a huge influence in that aspect. Also, the G20 countries have a combined GDP for over $150 trillion. I don't even know my brain doesn't even know how to understand that concept of $150 trillion. I think like if you were to like compare it to seconds and years, I think we're talking about, thousands and thousands of years. Okay, if you can compare those numbers to seconds and then years and stuff like that. And so people might ask, well, DMATT, what does this have to do with me? Like, whatever, I just drink my coffee in the morning, I drink my fluoride water, and I go to work, and I'm a part of the system. It has everything to do with you, because they need you. They need you to be a part of the system. They need you to not understand where they want to go with things in the future, number one. So this is like where the Roman circus really comes into effect, where a lot of people are just distracted by TV shows. They're distracted by their hobbies. I mean, I have hobbies too. So, but I'm just saying that we're on a whole nother level of where our minds are compared to where they were 220 years ago. People had more ownership of their minds. They had more ownership of their intelligence. They had more ownership of where the country was, what the country was doing. Okay. So the thing is that they hold so much influence, and especially them having this much power control on the digital market, it's going to affect our operation of our everyday lives. It's going to affect in the future. I'm telling you, making a huge prediction here. It's going to affect what we eat on a daily basis, or it's going to affect our transportation. It's going to affect how we can spend our money. It's going to affect our credit score. I'll just call it a credit score right now because it's what we Americans are used to, but I definitely think that a social credit score is coming in the future. It's around the corner. It's not off into the distance per se. That they're programming us, they're grooming us, they're conditioning us to get used to not only digital payments, but they're going to start to get us used to a social credit score system. We're already kind of used to it with the financial aspect of things based off of our credit and how we make payments and all that kind of stuff. Also, the fact that we are in debt nonstop every day of our lives, I'm going to refer to the Bible with this, but it says that if you are in debt with a master, you are a slave. So how I see that is that they've already got us by the leash. It's just we don't see that yet. Our brains can't really understand it because of years and years and years of conditioning and all that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, the digitization, it's completely linked with the CBDC and the agenda with the CBDC. And it's coming if you like it or not. It's not it's not a if, but a when. And so when we're talking about central bank digital currencies, which is the CBDCs, we're used to right now the system of a BDC, which is a bank digital currency. And the way that the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve doesn't necessarily print money out of thin air, but what the banks do, okay, think of a command structure, a chain of command structure, that these small banks up to the bigger banks and the banks that are bigger than those banks, these banks are giving out loans, which they are the ones that are technically printing the money, okay? They're the ones that are lending out more money and pumping the money into the system in that way. The money's already imaginary. We thought our money had value. It has no value. It's just a piece of paper, and it says bank, note of the Federal Reserve System on every piece of money that we have cash wise. Now, talking about digitization and things like that, we are already being conditioned to digital money. And this came in the form of credit cards, debit cards, especially credit cards. But now we're getting used to it being on our phones. We can also link our credit cards with our phones. We can link all of our payments through different, applications such as Venmo, PayPal, and all these other things. But we are getting programmed to get used to now, instead of making payments with cash, we've been moved and pushed down the road to now making payments with plastic. And now we're getting even moved and pushed down the road a little bit further to making payments with our cellular devices, or what's called, our personal devices. And it's not a hard concept to understand that we are moving to a digital age. And the thing too that is funny, I'll hear people talk about it, especially at work or whoever, where I spend most of my time at work, especially how much I've been working and everything like that. But it's the convenience that is really aiding this conditioning process, like this ultimate psyop, not psyop, but it's just a psychological effect that people are like, oh, I'm cool with paying with my phone. Because what moves on forward from that is what we're going to talk about too a little later in the show. Not too far, but a little later, is digital ID systems and things like that. And what also is right around the corner too with those digital ID systems is our identity authentication, which we already know now. We're already getting used to it. We're already getting text messages sent to our phones to put in this code that, our personal devices are our digital IDs right now at this moment. We just don't see it yet. We don't understand it. We just see it as a cell phone. Okay. But the entire concept is there. It's the groundwork is already there. Okay. So to move on, with the amount of power and influence that they have, like I said, it may take 5, 10, 15 years, but it's still going to get done. Okay. It's still going to be fulfilled. This prophecy is going to be fulfilled. And there's really no stopping it, because one thing that they do talk about in this summit is the word inclusion. And I remember I didn't really understand what inclusion really meant. And I heard it a long time ago. I heard it a few years ago. And I heard Klaus Schwab, who's the head chairman of the World Economic Forum, okay, who honestly talks about wanting to run the world through a global technocracy that is held by corporate stakeholderism and things like that. It's completely fucking insane, okay? And that inclusion is basically a term that is, it's not, I don't want to say that they're going to force people to be a part of this program, but it's that they have no choice. And so the inclusion aspect, that's how I see it. Now, we definitely saw it with BlackRock in the past year to 2 years, okay? And yep, a feral hamster, you're right, implants. We'll get to that. That's definitely down the road. Appreciate the comment. So we saw this inclusion taking place with the matrix, with the system that we live in. and it was ran by BlackRock. If you don't know BlackRock, BlackRock is a monopoly of owning all assets in the entire world. Okay, they own over 75% of America's. I'm sorry, over 75. I think it's 75%, maybe 80% of the world's assets. Okay, but they're worth. Someone in the chat, give me the actual fact check on this. I think it's $7 trillion in assets. Huge amount of money. It's more money than most of these countries' gross domestic products, which is insane for one company to hold. Now, there's a sister company of them that's also called Vanguard, and they also hold a big part of these assets as well. And to continue down the road here, so back to the stats of influence. These are complete facts, okay? So let's go over them. So the G20 countries, they emit about 80% of the world's greenhouse gases. So again, we're getting back to the influence, okay? This is a whole monopoly game going on here. I'm going to say that one more time. The G20 countries emit about 80% of the world's greenhouse gases. So I'll leave it right there, because I know I mentioned in the beginning of the show climate change, right? It's something that's going on, and it's a huge push right now. There is some pushback, but not enough. And what this means is that if they basically own 80% of the emissions in the entire world, then they have 80% of the influence to control that topic or that subject that is a part of the matrix system. So they can say, okay, well, we see it right now. Actually, we see that a part of the 2030 agenda is to completely take, gas vehicles off of the roadways. We're moving to a battery powered transportation system, and that I don't see it as something to help this world. I see it as just another control grab. Again, I mean, most of our vehicles right now, if not all of our vehicles, they are gas emitted, they are gas powered, but they're controlled with CPU systems, microchips, and all these types of things. What we're doing is we're getting pushed down the road a little further to where our complete aspect of our transportation, personal transportation, is going to be able to be controlled. And this reminds me of a movie that I watched years ago. Hey, T Grizzly, or Grizzly, hey, I appreciate the follow, man. I'll follow you after the show. Thank you very much. So it reminds me of a movie, and this movie was I, Robot with Will Smith, right? And it's a complete AI ran world where everything is basically where where they want the world to be at in the future. The World Economic Forum, the G20 summits, the United Nations. That I can definitely see that they are all pushing towards this type of world system where everything's kind of AI, everything's electric vehicles, everything's this whole digital world. And that in the movie, Will Smith, he's a police officer or something like that. He's some sort of detective. He's actually trying to investigate a homicide that the guy who basically created the AI system got killed, and so he's trying to figure out who killed him. And anyways, during the movie, the AI takes control of his vehicle and tries to run him off the road in a tunnel system. But it just makes me think, like, okay, I always think of 2019, 2020. What took place in those years was that we were in a lockstep system and that we were in a complete global shutdown. And the only thing that I could see is that if you don't have a credit score or a social credit score that is accustomed to where the world wants you to be, maybe they can shut your vehicle down. If you bought too much red meat this week, then okay, they can shut your vehicle down. Okay, there's more pandemics, there's more pestilences, there's more crises throughout the world to where they need to keep people indoors and keep people controlled. They're going to shut your way of transportation down. That's just me going off on that fact there. So to move forward, the G20 countries are responsible for about 75% of the world's military spending. Huge number here, especially when we're talking about the military industrial complex. These are huge statistics here. Also, the G20 has been criticized for its lack of transparency and accountability, and they have also been criticized for its inability to reach consensus on important issues. On top of that, despite the criticism, the G20 summit remains an important forum for the international cooperation on economic issues. And what this is basically saying is that they've also been criticized for the inability to reach certain consensuses, but what's going to happen is you're going to start to see this inclusion aspect or understanding to where they're just going to start to just do the damn thing. They're just going to, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, it doesn't matter if you're a Christian, it doesn't matter if your religious views, don't agree with where the world's going. They have all the influence, they have all the control over it, and they're just going to do the damn thing. Okay. Especially, where we see these government heads and what schools they went to, and did they go to Klaus Schwab's school for, world leaders and stuff like that. This is all a huge agenda. This is the new world order, but it's a step-by-step process. They can't just come in and do it immediately. It's got to be a pushback and then stop, a pushback and then stop process. Okay. Now, a lot of this information I'm giving you today is based off of, like I said, the 78-page document. And this document, you can look it up. I'll give it to you right now. It's called the G20 Policies Recommendations for Advancing Financial Inclusion and Productivity Gains Through Digital Public Infrastructure. So digital public infrastructure, short for DPI. We're going to go over this a bunch today, and what this means for a digital financial system, tokenization, Bank of International Settlements. I mean, we're going to talk about how the CBDCs and all this stuff is all going to pertain to this digital public infrastructure. Okay, they're setting the groundwork now. They're getting it ready. The foundation is solid as shit. Okay. I mean, they're pouring a foundation that is 10 feet deep. Okay. All right. The foundation of the pyramids, maybe stronger. I don't know. All right. So we got a chat here. Eagle Eye 2, very similar. You're 100% right. Thank you, Man in Black. Why couldn't it be white, man? Just kidding. Also, another chat here from Feral Hamster. Samsung just built an electric vehicle that is so big and requires so much power that it needs its own coal power plant to produce enough energy to run. LOL. You made me laugh. All right. That's insane. But the ironic thing about this comment is because they're all against climate change, right? They're all against this fossil fuel system. They're all against all this, and it's hilarious that one vehicle, just one vehicle, is going to take as much power for the whole power plant to produce enough for one vehicle. It's insane. So again, I'll say that document one more time. So this document is a 78-page document. You can find it on their website. Just go type in Google, just G20 Summit, and you'll be able to look this up. And it's called G20 Policy Recommendations for Advancing Financial Inclusion and Productivity Gains Through Digital Public Infrastructure, aka DPI. And it's so funny when they put policy recommendations. I've read, I'm not going to say hundreds, but I've read probably 50 of these type of papers spanning from the Bank of International Settlements, the IMF, International Monetary Fund, even the Federal Reserve digital papers. When they were talking about CBDCs 3-4 years ago, I was reading this stuff. They always slip some stupid shit in, like recommendations. These aren't recommendations. They're telling you what they're going to do in the future. This is like a soft, it's like when you read it, you know, it's kind of in your subliminal mind is like, oh, recommendations. No, they're telling you step by step what they're doing. They ran the scenarios through their entire system. They've played everything out, and they're telling you straight up to your face. This is almost like simple occult satanic strategy where they put things in front of you. They don't want to reap any karma that comes out of this stuff or anything like that. But that's a side note there. To move forward, what are they talking about with DPI, right? And like I said, this is the foundation. Okay, the specific word in this is the I, is the infrastructure. Okay, they're building all of this stuff. I mean, especially when we start to see 15-minute cities, when we start to see smart cities start to get installed, it's almost, I don't know if it's around the corner. I don't know if it's peeking its head out by then, but it's kind of like I see it on a daily basis. I mean, you walk into Whole Foods, right? Whole Foods was bought out and taken over by Amazon, and they now have a Palm Pay to where this is just another conditioning tool that is so, it's efficient for people. It's nice, right? There's no, oh wow, I can pay with my palm. Yeah, okay, fucking weird. All right, I don't want to give out my personal information, especially on my palm. I hate it when I got to do fingerprints. Okay, the fact is that these generations that are coming through, that are growing up now, I've got friends, they've got kids that are 12, 8 years old. My kid's 4 months. My other buddy, his kids, I think around the same age, 8, 7 years old. But they're growing up in this system. And this is why they're doing this. This is the whole purpose of conditioning, right? And especially, it's like one of the things that Hitler says, it's like, oh, well, I'm not coming for your generation. I'm coming for I'm coming for your children's generation. Okay? Because this is when conditioning really takes an effect, and it's really used to the best of its ability. So in this paper, the acronym DPI was used 441 times. Okay, the term inclusion, I hate that word, inclusion, was used 263 times. The term digital ID was used 83 times, and this is another big thing that we're going to talk about, okay, is the term called government-to-person payments was used 24 times. Now, why does that sound familiar for the people that were paying attention during 2019, 2020, and 2021? Well, me especially as an essential worker, it was an eye-opening thing when the entire world was shut down. Everyone was staying at home. Everyone was getting some sort of welfare check. Everyone was getting some sort of government-to-person payment, right? Okay, so we're putting this all together, right? COVID wasn't just conditioning people that they needed a particular thing to be a part of society, to buy and sell per se, or to even keep your own damn job. But they hit you with the masks. They hit you with certain other little things that, with all these other little things added up, I mean, there's still people today that are conditioned. I see them all the time. Now, I get it. If you're 85 years old, if you're 90 years old, if you've got, autoimmune disorders, if you get sick frequently and things like that, totally understand that aspect. I'm not being a Nazi as far as that understanding goes. But what I am saying is that there's normal people, there's 25-year-olds, 35-year-olds, 45-year-olds that are walking around double masked up, wearing triple masks inside their vehicle. Okay. I seen the guy the other day wearing gloves. medical gloves, okay? Which means he bought these gloves, okay? Medical gloves, grabbing the steering wheel with 2 surgical masks on. I even think he had glasses on, dude. I think he had PPE on everything, and he's isolated to his own germs that he has in his own body that he honestly needs to get out of his system. Okay, so like I said, is this the groundwork for a new world order, one world government? All of this stuff, everything. My buddy says it the best, and I'll throw him a shout out. Jesse, he says it all the time. All of these things connect. They all do. They all connect to the same route. All of these things are being corralled into the same area for a one purpose, and it's a huge operation. It's coming from all different angles. Okay. So to give you guys the definition of what DPI is, so DPI, right, which is digital public infrastructure. Okay. Let's say that again. Digital public infrastructure. Okay. Just imagine a digital system being built for every aspect of your daily life. Okay. So DPI is an interoperable, right? Open and accessible infrastructure supported by technology to provide essential, society-wide, public and private services digitally, such as identification, payments, and data exchange. Okay, let's go over that one more time. So DPI is an interoperable, open and accessible infrastructure supported by technology to provide essential, society-wide, public and private technology and services digitally, such as identification, payments, and data exchange. It doesn't say it in it, but this is centralization of everything that we deal with on a daily basis. This is centralization of every exchange that we go through on our daily lives. Okay. And they don't put centralization in there. They don't want to use that word, even though they do use it with central bank digital currencies. They have to. But they don't want to basically say that socialism and communism is going to be fabricated under a false facade of capitalism, maybe in the United States. I mean, we are a capitalist country, but the roots of everything is going to be, it's going to come and it's going to link to socialism, and then what comes after socialism, right, is communism. Okay, so and this is why socialism is a term we're talking about, because I did mention a few minutes ago, government to person payments. Okay. Universal income. This is happening. This stuff is the future. Okay. They're telling you this to your face. So now let's get into the government to person payments. Okay. Super important here. We really saw this happening, like I said earlier, with COVID-19. Okay. And that a lot of people were receiving checks. I mean, dude, people were even receiving these checks if they continued to put in applications that they were trying to get a job, because maybe their job cut them off, or maybe their job, or they couldn't, attend their job because it wasn't a essential position at that time. You know what I'm saying? So was 2019 through 2021, was it a test to run this system to see how it's going to work? Let's get the numbers, right? It's kind of like when you cast a line in the water and you're trying to get a bite. What's going on? Okay, you don't get a bite. Let's move to a different area, right? Let's do another test. So I think this test 100% passed, flying colors. Okay. And was it a test for welfare? Was it a test for social protection programs? Was it a test for social assistance payments? It all was. Okay. I'm saying it as a question, but I want you to think about these things. All right. So another thing too is I watched an interview of Elon Musk, and it was between I think it was an X interview. Okay. And if you don't know what X is, it's Twitter. He just renamed it as X, which if you take that exact symbol and you invert it parallel to it, it does form a Mason symbol. But then I don't think it's a hard stretch there. Just something weird. Thought I'd throw that in there. So, like I said, Elon was having an interview on X, and who he had on the interview board was the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. I probably butchered that last name, but what they did talk about was the future of the economy, what the future of. It's so funny, they really come in like they're heroes, and it's like almost like if you understand the generational theory, like that there are heroes that pertain in these generations. And we see a few of them today. We see Elon Musk, we see Trump, we see all these people. I don't trust them for one damn second. Okay, I trust my family and my friends, and people that earn my trust. But especially why I don't trust them is because when I'm hearing Elon Musk, what he's talking about is he's talking about a universal income. And he's even bringing up the fact that the X platform, which is supposed to be a free speech platform, right? He's got bigger plans, people, for this platform, okay? And there's more symbology between, as far as the X goes, but he has more visions down the road for this platform. He even says, quote, that he wants the X app to have about half of the GDP flowing through it. Okay, so think of DPI, think of government to person payments, and now think of how they're going to distribute this type of stuff. Could be distributed through the app. We don't know. I don't think it's a far stretch with that. So now as far as government to person payments, an interesting statistic is that just 4 years earlier to 2021, okay, which we know what happened just prior to that, or around that time, okay, so 4 years prior to that, 400 million, 4 years earlier to that, there was 400 million individuals less on government to person payments. So, like I said, was this a test? Was this a test to cast out the line and see how the public reacts to it? And they saw it. They saw where the public is. They saw where they stand. And in fact, for this statistic to be shown for 400 million individuals who were a part of government person spending and income, that the public loved it. They loved the welfare. They loved the government to person payments. They love the socialism, okay? They love it, and it doesn't blow me away. The whole concept blows me away because I'm a free thinking individual, and I can see through the BS. Because a teddy bear could look fluffy and fun to hug, you know what I'm saying? But he's still got hands the size of your head and claws, the size of your fingers, okay? And if one thing goes wrong, boom. It's kind of like what I see with this whole thing going on is, let's just compare it to the Titanic, okay? Let's compare it to the Titanic, where there was just a little iceberg showing it up ahead stream, right? And they don't see what's under the water, okay? They don't see that there's bigger problems under the water. And I heard a senator, House representative, I don't know what he was, but he was in the House, I think on the 29th of September, and he was basically making that analogy with where the financial future of America is. And I mean, they're talking about Social Security only lasting 9 years, man. This is not good, because there's not enough money to pay off this off debt. And it's funny that our world today, nothing's really changed. Nothing's changed. Maybe the technology's changed. I don't see that we're living much in a different world. There's just different technologies, there's different things, a part of the world, but the world is still the same. And when we go back through the etymology of mortgage, right, and you know, that's the biggest debt that Americans are in today is mortgages. And these mortgages are owned by very powerful people, very powerful families. They're owned by these huge banks. And the word mortgage means death grip, right? And it comes from the Latin term. And it's funny because when we think of Latin, we think of Rome, we think of Egypt, we think of these empires of the world that had full control over their people. So to move forward here, we're gonna keep running down the road here. G2P. Whenever I see G2P, this is just a reference to government to person. Okay. So let's talk about more aspects, some more facts about G2P, and we'll give you guys a better understanding of what the G20 summit is talking about. And the G20 says the increased scale of G2P payment programs offer a huge opportunity to advance financial inclusion, contribute to women's economic empowerment, and promote the development of the digital ecosystem. Okay. So Man in Black, he leaves a comment, says JP Morgan purposely sank the Titanic. I believe it, man. I love it. If you haven't understood or gone over that whole thing, the Titanic, there's the official narrative, then there's the unofficial conspiracy narratives that kind of are clashing right now today, because a lot of people are starting to wake up to what the Federal Reserve truly is, and it's getting a lot of hit right now. So, but let's go over this statement here. This is what they say. So when a G20 says, right? So quote, the G20 says the increased scale of government to person payments offer payment programs to huge opportunity to advance financial inclusion, contribute to women's economic empowerment, and to promote the development of the digital ecosystem. So let's just break that. It's broken down into 3 parts here. Let's go through this real quick. G2P payment programs offer huge opportunity to advance financial inclusion. Okay. Like what we went over a few minutes ago. We saw what the time period of 2019 and 2021 did. Okay. A lot of people were moved into this financial inclusion of government to person payments. We saw that. Now, but that's what this is saying, is that government to person payments are going to move this financial system into the area where they want it to be. Okay. And it's also going to contribute to women's economic empowerment. This is, if you don't know anything about Agenda 21, go read it, and you'll see that this is what they talk about in here, to increase women's empowerment, especially in government and other areas of the spectrum, and to promote the development of the digital ecosystem. This is just going to make it all flow in one direction. G2 payments, or G2P, is gonna be a huge aid in the direction of where they want to go, and it's really global socialism and communism. Okay, that's where they want to go with this. The old world to them is where I'd say the old Republic of the United States was at years ago, and even the United States is kind of slowly moving into a socialist government. It's kind of slowly moving into, you see it with a certain party, but I think both parties have trash in it. So another fact is Global Findex data finds that 865 million account owners in developing economies opened their first financial institutions account for the purpose of receiving government transfers during the pandemic. So you could see now that businesses were also helped being created, 865 million accounts, okay, people and businesses, that they were given the ability to function business. And this is kind of like what inclusion kind of covers. It covers that involuntary aspect of things where you are being corralled into a certain area, but you don't know it. You're seeing the facades. You're seeing the bright light to, the fly zapper. Okay. And imagine global welfare, right? So what this is kind of talking about too is global welfare, global tax, and it's just going to be just a global scoring system. Okay. And will it be based off of the agenda? Like, will it be based off of climate? Will it be based off of your religious views? Will it be based off of how you vote? Will it be based off of how many days you drive your vehicle? All kinds of stuff. And if you're against the system, I'm sure you're going to be some sort of, domestic terrorist or something, maybe in the future. And to tie all of this in together, we'll go over who's really a big part of all of this, and that is the Bank of International Settlements, short for BIS. Below them is the International Monetary Fund, and below the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, is these central banks. So the Bank of International Settlements, it was established in 1930. The Bank of International Settlements is owned by 63 central banks representing countries from all around the world that together account for about 95% of the world's GDP. Let's say that one more time. It was established in 1930, okay? The Bank of International Settlements is owned by 63 central banks representing countries from all around the world that together account for about 95% of the world's GDP. The new CEO, I think he was put in 2023. His name is Simon Adkins. He's got a lot of interesting quotes. You can go look them up. Just in Google, type in Simon Adkins quotes, and you'll see what they say. One thing that does help me kind of find these quotes, because they are hidden on the web data, but you put it in as images, and there's people that post a lot of things on Pinterest and all kinds of stuff. You'll be able to have more. They'll be more exposed on the images tab. So another interesting feller is Augustin Corstenis, okay? And he's the general manager of the Bank of International Settlements. And he's even said that the Bank of International Settlements will have absolute control of your money through CBDCs, okay? And so we can see now too today that a lot of platforms, a lot of banks, that they are testing this central bank digital currency. They are just transitioning from the BDCs into the CBDCs. Okay. And some of them are on pilot mode, a lot of them are in test mode, and what comes after test mode is, I forget exactly what it's called, just another stage of advancement to getting it established. And this is going to involve tokenization. This is going to involve digitizing assets, which we know that Larry Fink was even on, I think he was on a TED Talk or something. He even said that the future of assets is tokenization of assets. Now, what does tokenization mean? It means that these assets get a token label. Okay. One thing that the World Economic is famously known for is their motto, which is by 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy. And how does that, DMAT, how does that pertain to tokenization? Well, go listen to a fucking podcast on the BIS website. Just kidding. Just kidding. Some people don't have time for that. But I'm a nerd. So where they're getting at with this is that things will now be the system of tokenization is going to be moved towards almost like a voucher system. Almost to where like this system is not only programmable, but this system is a voucher system integrated with the blockchain. And so if you want to go buy a chainsaw, you can go buy a chainsaw, but you don't necessarily own that chainsaw. When you buy that chainsaw, you're in a way using a voucher to now have that token, which the chainsaw is going to have a token, and now it is lined up on the blockchain. So this blockchain is going to record everything that you buy and sell. It's going to record everything as far as your mortgage payments. It's going to, your vehicle, everything, guys. Even if you buy a book off Amazon, it's going to be on the damn blockchain. Okay. They're going to, this is going to monitor everything. This is ultimate censorship. And the blockchain doesn't just go away. It's not like your search history, okay, where you can go ahead and delete it. Like some of you sick freaking people, but I'm just kidding. But it's going to be to where there is no getting rid of this. There is no getting rid of how much you owe in taxes. There is going to be a cashless society. You're going to no longer be able to hide anything from government entities. Okay. Now, there is a German economist, and his name is Richard Werner. Okay. He's kind of like the Edward Snowden, but for the economy and the financial future of things. He talks about the CBDC. He says that the way that they're going to most likely implement this central bank digital currencies. This had to be a year ago. I listened to this guy. Okay. And this is before this summit. And he even said that it's going to be in the form of a universal income, which is what we went over earlier, the G2P, right? Government two-person payments. And people are going to flock to it. People are going to love it. People are going to encourage others to do it, because in a way it's money that's coming in with no work being done. I'm sure in the future there's going to be a lot of jobs that are going to be lost, a lot of jobs that people aren't going to be wanting to go and work like nowadays. I mean, there's already less people working than there was 30 years ago, man. I mean, it's just where we're at in the timeline of things. And he also says that this CBDC will come in the form of a microchip. Now, what he is saying is 100% fact, because I read this in a document by the World Economic Forum. I believe the document was called "The Future of Digitizing Payments and Digital ID Systems," and in there it talked about, it had a timeline of things. It talked about where we're at now, which we're with personal devices. Okay. This is basically our digital ID system. Okay. I mean, it scans our biometrics. It does all kinds of things, listens to us every day, so on and so forth. But the evolution, I mean, the future of it would be now linking to smart cities, smart homes. We're talking about wearable technology and things like that. And then the evolution of that will move to a system where sensors and technology are embedded under the skin. Okay. And you can find this on their websites, and you can go over all that stuff. This isn't bullshit. All right. So it's just what we're talking about, the whole gist of everything, and just to summarize everything, we're talking about a new financial market, a new infrastructure. And maybe this is, I don't know. I'm going to take this back. Not maybe. It is a part of the New World Order. Okay. And I do think this is the beast system that Revelation does talk about. And it's going to be to where people might even be their own ledger, or they might function off of government ledgers. It might be to the point to where people, also get these government to person payments through human activity data. There's already patents for things like this. to where you can mine cryptocurrency based off of human activity data. It's a Microsoft patent that was, that was done in the year 2020, actually, right at the same exact time, COVID went down. A lot of this stuff could capture the full benefits of the tokenization system and combining central bank money and to deposits, to transactions, all this kind of stuff. And what they do say in this G20 document, it's going to be on a programmable platform. Okay. Now, what does that mean, DMatt? Well, what does that mean, DMatt? Well, let me tell you. Okay. Programmable is out of your control. Okay. If you program a CPU, if you program a robot, if you program anything, you're telling it what to do. And especially you're telling it in code too, which is another interesting thing. I'm not sure if they have the technology now, which they probably do. I mean, if we had mRNA technology 30 years ago and that it hit the public like it was Operation Warp Speed, that it was the newest thing ever, and I can't believe these experts did this. Understand, like the technology was here. It was here already. Okay. And it's nothing new. So I do think maybe DARPA could be working on something. Maybe these military industrial complex companies, these basically Stark Industries, they're working on something. I think it's just going to be a Hegelian dialect process to where there's a problem, reaction, solution, movement to getting these things into society. Could be a huge economical collapse. Could be hacking, which World Economic Forum Klaus Schwab does talk about, that there's going to be cyber attacks. It could be all of this stuff. But in the gist, this is all going to be operated under a programmable platform. Everything we talked about today is going to be operated under a programmable platform. And good luck. Good luck with your freedom. Good luck with how you want to live your life. You're going to have to obey their rules. You're going to have to vote the way they want you to vote. You're going to have to eat what they want you to eat. You're going to have to get what they say to put in your arm. You're going to have to get all this stuff. Okay. And the thing is that they're going to give you benefits. They're going to give you money. They're going to give you the cheese to the trap. Okay. And pretty much that's my little monologue. Not so little. We went over an hour and 8 minutes, but it was a lot of fun. I put a lot of dedication into this stuff on my days off, and I try to know what I'm talking about. I really do. I try to understand where the world is so that I can prepare. I can do what I need to do to get ready for, a future that is ahead of me. And so I can dip and dive and dodge, you know what I'm saying? And I hope everyone else that loves freedom, that they do have the same mindset. Okay. And it is depressing going over all of this stuff. It is depressing, but don't shut down. Get up out of the dirt, get up off the ground, and rocky this mother effer. Okay. We're just doing the rope-a-dope, man. We'll get through this. But that's going to conclude my segment tonight. I had a lot of fun. For the people listening, watching, please share this show, share this episode. It's a lot of good stuff. And, give us a like. We appreciate the support. We are Doe Wise Men on all socials. It just might be spelt a little different. So, but not a big deal. But thank you everyone for, letting me ramble on tonight. I had a lot of fun, and I will see you guys. I will see y'all on the next one. Okay. DMaTT out.